Welcome to today's deep dive. We've got an incredibly dense, fascinating stack of research to get through today.
Yeah, it is a massive stack of notes.
It really is. And we're pulling from a really wide array of experts on productivity, effective learning, goal attainment, and mental well-being.
Fundamentally life-changing material when you put it all together, honestly.
Exactly. And our mission for this conversation is to take all these disparate studies, these frameworks and data points, and synthesize them into a single cohesive shortcut for you.
Right, taking the noise and making it actionable.
Yeah. By the end of this, the goal is for you to walk away highly effective, significantly less stressed, and armed with the actual mechanics of how to, optimize your own potential.
Because we are looking at everything from the realities of modern time management to the literal neuroscience of how your brain filters reality to keep you sane.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really get the most out of these frameworks, we have to start by completely resetting how we think about productivity in the first place.
Right, because the prevailing narrative right now is fundamentally flawed. I mean, society often pushes this idea that success and productivity are strictly a numbers game.
The whole hustle culture thing.
Exactly. It's that classic hustle culture mindset.
Yeah.
If you just log more hours, sleep less, and grind harder, you will inevitably get better results.
Which is just exhausting to even think about.
It's an obsession with quantity over quality.
Yeah.
But the data we're looking at points to a massive failure in that model. There's a startling statistic in this research.
Yeah, this part blew my mind.
Right. The most burned out demographic of workers is no longer people in their mid-30s or 40s who have been in the corporate machine for decades. That burned out demographic has actually shifted all the way down to 18 to 22-year-olds.
Teenagers and young adults are hitting a wall before their careers even really begin. That alone tells us the current system is completely broken. So whether you're prepping for a major presentation at work, studying for a brutal certification exam, or you just want to get more done in your day without feeling like a hollow shell of a human being by Friday.
Which I think is the goal for all of us.
Right. This is custom tailored for you. We are tossing out the hustle culture rhetoric and looking at the actual mechanics of getting things done. Let's start with time management and mitigating stress.
The foundation of all of it.
Yeah. The research highlights something called the Trident calendar system. It's a three-pronged macro, meso, and micro approach.
It's a really great framework because it shifts your perspective on time constraints.
Most of us just live the daily or weekly view on our digital calendars. Right?
Exactly. We're essentially just reacting to whatever is immediately in front of us. But the Trident system starts from the top down. The macro prong is the year at a glance.
Which sounds overwhelming, but it's not.
It's surprisingly simple. You just use a basic spreadsheet to lay out all 365 days on a single screen. When you physically see your life laid out like that, it allows you to intentionally plan major life blocks months in advance.
You can actually see the runway for big project launches or scheduled time off rather than having them suddenly sneak up on you.
Exactly. And once that macro view is set, the literature moves to the meso level, which is designing your ideal week.
Right, because we all know we have roughly 112 waking hours a week.
If you subtract sleep,
Yeah, the math of life.
Yeah.
The strategy isn't just to make a giant to-do list. It's to intentionally design containers of time within those 112 hours.
You block out specific containers for deep work, for the gym, and even for things like date nights or reading.
And the container concept is vital because it forces prioritization through constraints.
Right. If your 112 hours are fully containerized, you have to actively choose what to remove if you want to add something new.
You can't just magically create a 113th hour.
You literally can't.
But, I mean, I've tried calendar blocking before, and my issue, and I imagine this is true for a lot of people listening, is that life is messy.
Of course.
What happens when an emergency completely derails your perfectly containerized ideal week? You get one unexpected assignment and the whole system falls apart.
That's where the micro level comes in, which is daily quests.
Daily quests, yeah.
Instead of a massive, overwhelming list of 50 things you need to recover, you set exactly 3 main tasks for your day. Usually one for work, one for health, and one for relationships.
So if the day blows up, you only have to protect those 3 quests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to your point about life being messy,
Yeah.
that ties directly into the other half of this equation, which is protecting your energy and mitigating stress.
Because when we get too stressed by those derailed plans, our cognitive bandwidth basically collapses.
It does.
The literature actually uses a hilarious term for this. It calls it going into potato mode.
Potato mode, exactly.
Yeah.
Or vegetable mode.
It's so accurate, though.
It is. It's that state where your brain is so overloaded that you come home, drop onto the couch, stare at a screen, and do absolutely nothing of value.
You have zero executive function left.
None.
Yeah.
Furthermore, stress causes us to make risky, poor decisions, and honestly, it just makes us unpleasant to be around.
Very true.
So, the research provides a really clear 4-step stress mitigation framework to prevent potato mode. Step 1 is freeing up RAM in your brain.
Getting it all out of your head.
You have to get all the projects out of your head and onto paper. Your brain is a terrible hard drive. Trying to keep a mental list of everything you owe people causes intense cognitive overload.
Then step 2 is organizing that brain dump using the Eisenhower matrix.
Right.
Now, we all know the Eisenhower matrix. We've all seen the 4 boxes categorizing things by what is urgent versus what is important.
But the research here highlights where most of us actually fail when using it.
We fail at step 3, which is moving those categorized tasks into a planner without allocating extra buffer time.
Human beings are notoriously victims of the planning fallacy. We are terrible at estimating how long tasks will take.
Oh, absolutely. I always think an email will take 2 minutes and it takes 20.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So if you think a report will take an hour, block an hour and a half. If you don't build in that buffer, one small hiccup makes you fall behind, which triggers a cascade of stress.
Which pushes you right back toward potato mode.
Exactly. And step 4 is leveraging momentum. The data uses an analogy from economics called the J-curve. Imagine the shape of a literal letter J.
Okay.
When you sit down to do a task you are really dreading, your motivation actually dips initially. You are at the bottom hook of the J. It feels awful.
The friction is just so high.
Right. And most people quit right there at the bottom of the hook.
Yeah.
They feel the friction and say, I'm just not motivated today.
Yeah.
But the trick is to realize that motivation follows action, not the other way around. You have to force yourself to just sit in you start to ride up the long stem of the J data. Dopamine starts releasing as you complete micro steps, creating positive feedback loop, where completing the work becomes its own reward.
It's an incredible hack for the brain. Just trick yourself into starting for 10 minutes. But even with momentum, we can't do everything.
No, you can't J-curve your way through 80 hours of work in a 40-hour week.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the absolute ultimate productivity hack isn't a scheduling trick or a calendar app at all. It is the word no.
Which is brutally hard for high achievers to say.
It is. But the data points to Warren Buffett here, who famously noted that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that the latter say no to almost everything.
We suffer from shiny object syndrome.
Well, completely. We think we are constantly attracting new opportunities, but people often confuse actual opportunities with liabilities that are just disguised as opportunities.
A great example from the text is the unexpected phone call. It sounds harmless to just pick up the phone, right? But think about it. If you have blocked out your container of time to do deep, focused work, and your phone rings, picking it up is an action.
A decisive action.
Yeah. You are effectively communicating a yes to a distraction and a no to your own goals. Every time you say yes to a disguised liability, you are stealing time from your ideal week.
Which is the perfect transition into how we actually hit the targets we are trying so fiercely to protect. We have to look at the science of goal attainment.
And according to the research, that process fundamentally starts with writing the goals down. There is an amazing anecdote in the stack about the success coach Jim Rohn.
I love this story.
Back before he was wealthy, he met a mentor who told Ron he could guess his bank balance within a few $100s simply by looking at whether or not Ron had a written list of goals.
Ron didn't have a list.
And sure enough, he was broke. But it's not just an old motivational story. A study from Dominican University proved that the simple act of writing your goals down makes you 42% more likely to achieve them.
That is a massive statistical advantage for an action that takes maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And there is a concrete neurological reason for this. It involves a part of the brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
I love this concept. Walk us through how the RAS actually functions.
So the RAS is essentially a bundle of nerves at the base of your brainstem. Its entire job is to act as a bouncer or a filter for your conscious mind.
Like a literal bouncer at a club.
Exactly like a bouncer. In any given moment, your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of sensory input, sounds, colors, conversations, temperatures.
It's too much data.
Your brain cannot possibly process all of that without short-circuiting. So the RAS decides what information gets through to your conscious awareness based on what it believes is important to you.
Okay, so by writing your goals down and reviewing them frequently, you are literally programming your RAS.
You are telling your brain's bouncer, hey, this matters. Let this type of information in.
The classic analogy the literature uses here is the Fiat 500. The moment you decide you want to buy a Fiat 500, you suddenly start seeing them everywhere.
In parking lots, on the highway.
In the background of TV shows. Everyone didn't suddenly go out and buy a Fiat 500. They were always there. Your RAS just stopped filtering them out because you told it they were important.
Exactly. You are training your brain to spot the opportunities that align with your goals that are currently just blending into the background noise.
But just setting the goal and turning on the RAS isn't the whole puzzle.
No, the meta-analysis shows that regular monitoring is critical. A simple red, yellow, and green tracking system works wonders here.
Green is on track.
Yellow is veering off, but you have a plan to fix it, and red is off track without a plan.
But the real magic happens when we look at how we visualize that progress. A lot of self-help gurus tell you to just constantly visualize your success. Picture yourself crossing the finish line, holding the trophy, whatever.
Which is actually terrible advice based on the data.
Right. The psychologist Gabriel Oettingen found that simply visualizing success can actually make you less likely to achieve the goal because it tricks your brain into feeling like you've already accomplished it.
You lose the drive.
Exactly. She developed a method called WOOP instead.
Right, WOOP. Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. It leverages something called mental contrasting.
How does that differ from regular visualization?
Well, you do visualize the wish and the positive outcome, but then you deliberately contrast it by visualizing the specific obstacles that are going to inevitably get in your way.
Give us a concrete example of how someone listening to this right now would use WOOP.
Let's say your wish is to do 2 hours of deep, focused work on a Friday afternoon. The outcome is you feel great and get to enjoy your weekend stress-free.
Sounds nice.
But then you visualize the obstacle. Your chatty coworker always comes by your desk at 3 p.m. to gossip.
The absolute worst.
Right, so now that you've identified the specific friction point, you make a plan. If my coworker comes over, then I will put on my noise-canceling headphones and point to a Do Not Disturb sticky note on my monitor.
Planning for the exact failure points in advance is what actually guarantees the results.
It's pre-solving your problems before you are the emotional heat of the moment.
And the final piece of the goal puzzle is about identity shifts. There is a fascinating study on voting behavior mentioned in the sources.
Oh, the voter study.
Yeah, researchers found that asking people, will you be a voter, was vastly more effective at getting them to the polls than asking them, will you vote?
Because human beings have a deep psychological need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Will you vote is an action. You can easily justify skipping inaction.
But will you be a voter is an identity.
Exactly. If you want to achieve a goal, you had to tie it to an identity shift. Instead of saying, I'm trying to read more, you say, I am a reader.
Instead of, I want to stop eating junk food, you say, I am a healthy person.
When the going gets tough and your motivation completely evaporates, you won't rely on willpower. You will rely on your identity to stay consistent.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because identity shifts and calendar blocking are fantastic for professional projects, but what if your goal is to master a complex new topic? Or what if you are studying for a major certification?
Knowing how to learn is a meta skill.
And the research completely tears down what most of us have been doing since high school.
It is a harsh reality check. Think about how you probably studied in college. You read your notes over and over, you highlighted textbooks in 5 different fluorescent colors, and maybe you wrote out some passive summaries.
Psychologists call this the illusion of competence.
You feel like you are learning because you were busy, and the textbook is glowing with yellow highlighter, but you aren't actually retaining the information.
In 2013, Professor Danlowski published a massive review of thousands of studies on learning techniques. His conclusion was brutal.
Highlighting doesn't work.
Rereading, highlighting, and summarizing are rated as low utility. They are basically a psychological safety blanket. They make us feel productive, but they are highly inefficient.
If you want to actually learn, you have to combat the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve.
Explain the forgetting curve.
Back in the 1800s, Ebbinghaus discovered that the moment we learn something new, our memory of it begins to decay exponentially. At a synaptic level, if your brain doesn't need to recall a piece of information, it assumes it's garbage and prunes the connection to save energy.
So it's literally destroying the memory to be efficient.
Exactly. The only way to interrupt that forgetting curve is to test yourself at spaced intervals. This forces the brain to myelinate those neural pathways, making the memory stronger.
The concept at play here is desirable difficulty. The literature uses a great analogy of a professional hockey coach.
Right. During practice, just as the players start to master a drill and it feels easy and smooth, the coach immediately blows the whistle and changes the drill.
Learning must be hard to be effective. If reading your notes feels easy, you aren't building neural pathways. You need to struggle to pull the information out of your brain, not just passively try to shove it back in.
And practically, you should always aim to understand the first principles, asking why something works, rather than just memorizing a list of superficial guidelines.
So how do we implement this desirable difficulty? The research provides a few highly actionable tools. The first is the Feynman technique, named after the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman.
The rule is brilliantly simple. You only truly understand a complex topic if you can explain it clearly to a 5-year-old.
If you are stumbling over industry jargon or relying on complex buzzwords, you are hiding gaps in your own knowledge.
You don't really know it.
Another great tool is using flashcard apps like Anki, which actually automate the spaced repetition algorithm for you. It shows you the card right before you are statistically about to forget it.
But the golden rule with those apps is to keep it to exactly one fact per card to avoid overwhelming your cognitive load.
Right. Then there is this fascinating method from a science YouTuber named Simon Clark. He uses what he calls a prospective spaced repetition diary.
This is a really clever tactile system. Instead of using a spreadsheet to retrospectively track what he studied in the past, he uses a physical diary.
Like a daily planner.
Exactly. When he learns a new topic on a Monday, he writes it down on that day's page, but then he immediately flips ahead in the diary and writes that same topic down on the page for tomorrow, then a week later, and a month later.
Wait, hold on. So he's projecting into the future pages.
Exactly. When he opens his diary on any given morning, it automatically generates a daily checklist of what his brain is right on the verge of forgetting, based on what he learned days or weeks prior. It's a self-generating review schedule.
That is incredibly smart. It takes all the decision fatigue out of studying.
It does. And the final learning concept from the stack is guide versus guru. We often think we need to find a world-class, top-tier expert to teach us a new skill.
But the research points out the curse of knowledge. Experts are often so far removed from the basics and so entrenched in the nuance that they literally can't explain the fundamentals anymore.
You actually learn best by teaching someone who is just one step behind you on the journey. Be a guide to someone else, not a guru.
Which perfectly sets up our final section. We've gone over all these incredible frameworks for time management, goal setting, identifying opportunities, and accelerated learning.
But how do we actually tie all of these habits together day after day?
How do we maintain focus when the friction hits?
The answer the data points to is taking control of the mind via journaling.
Journaling is the ultimate intervention. The literature maps out what we can call the decision pipeline. It goes like this. Our thoughts and feelings dictate our decisions. Our decisions dictate our actions.
And our actions dictate the results we get in life.
If you don't like the results you're getting, you can't just try to force new actions. You have to intervene at the very top of the pipeline, your thoughts and feelings.
And journaling isn't just a Dear Diary exercise. It is a strategic intervention. The research breaks this down into 3 distinct levels of journaling.
Level 1 is the most accessible. It is simply recording what happened today. A great example highlighted in the sources is Matthew Dix's concept called homework for life.
At the end of every single day, you write down the most story-worthy moment of your day in just 1 or 2 sentences.
It trains your RAS to notice the small, beautiful moments of your life that you would otherwise completely forget.
Another approach is Julia Cameron's Morning Pages, where you handwrite 3 pages of a complete, unfiltered brain dump first thing in the morning, just to clear the static and anxiety from your head before you start work.
Once you get comfortable with that, you move to level 2, journaling about how you feel, and there's hard empirical science backing this up.
What's fascinating here is the data from clinical studies. A 2015 study in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology took students and had them write expressively about a past, painful, or stressful event.
They just wrote about their feelings regarding the trauma.
4 months later, the researchers followed up, and those students had significantly better mental health and lower stress markers than the control group.
Just the act of writing it down detaches you from the anxiety.
It externalizes the threat. Additionally, a 2017 study showed that doing focused gratitude journaling just 4 times over 2 weeks resulted in demonstrably higher happiness and stronger relationships a month later.
It's amazing how fast that rewires the brain. The research also mentions relationship expert John Gottman's I Appreciate Exercise. You list 3 specific qualities you appreciate about a partner, a friend, or a colleague,
You note a specific time they demonstrated those qualities.
and then you bravely share it with them. It is terrifying for some people to be that vulnerable, but it completely transforms relationships.
It does. But then we hit the absolute peak. Level 3, journaling for direction and action.
This is where you actively shape your future.
A brilliant prompt here is the Odyssey Plan, which comes from the Stanford Design Program and the book Designing Your Life. You map out 3 completely different life paths for your next 5 years.
Path 1 is what happens if you continue exactly what you're doing right now.
Path 2 is what you would do if your current career path suddenly vanished completely.
And path 3 is what your life would look like if money and the judgment of other people were completely irrelevant.
It forces you to confront what you actually want versus what you feel obligated to do.
And if you do that exercise and you are still feeling paralyzed by a decision, the stack recommends a prompt called the Solomon Conversation, popularized by entrepreneur Alex Hormozy.
The idea is based on the biblical King Solomon, who was famous for giving incredible wise advice to others, but whose own personal life was an absolute disaster.
The psychological principle is that we are all terrible at taking our own advice because we are too close to the emotion.
So, to distance yourself, you open a document and ask your imaginary 85-year-old self for advice on your current problem.
It is an incredibly powerful psychological trick. When you force your brain to adopt the perspective of your 85-year-old self looking back at your life, you almost always realize that the things you are losing sleep over right now are totally trivial.
The missed email, the awkward meeting, the slight delay in a project.
They are completely meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Your older self usually just tells you to chill out, focus on what matters, and enjoy the journey.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this all together for you. Today, we have built an ultimate science-backed toolkit. It starts by stepping back and taking a macro view of your year and then intentionally designing the 112 waking hours of your week with targeted containers.
You have to guard that time fiercely by saying no to the liabilities that masquerade as opportunities.
You write your goals down to actively program your brain's reticular activating system to spot the things you want.
When it comes to learning new skills, you throw away your fluorescent highlighters and rely on the desirable difficulty of spaced repetition and active recall.
And you maintain your sanity by using the 3 levels of journaling to intervene at the top of your decision pipeline.
This raises an important question. We establish that our reticular activating system literally acts as a bouncer, filtering our entire reality based on what we write down and focus on.
Right.
And we know that our 85-year-old selves would look at us right now and tell us to stop stressing over the tiny, insignificant friction of daily life.
Yeah.
So what invisible opportunities are currently walking right past you? Simply be you haven't given your brain the instruction to look for them yet.
Wow.
What if the perfect life you're trying so incredibly hard to strictly schedule is actually already happening all around you, but you just haven't tuned your mind to see it?
That is a wildly provocative thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We wish you the absolute best of luck in taking these frameworks and actually testing them out in the messy reality of your own life. Get out there, start programming that RAS, let go of the potato mode, and we will see you next time.